Howdy folks, Grizz here, and welcome back for part 6 of the epic gun cart build. Can't remember where we were at the end of the last one. I think we just had this laid out, but we've gotten all of our parts cut, rounded over, and we have the rifle rack part put together. We have the, let's put this right side up, the slot cut and the hole for the dowel, and there will be screws through, which is why it's bored a little bit deeper. Bored, drilled, yeah, another drilling joke, right? Okay, and right now I think what we're going to do is attach the cross members to the uprights and kind of work from there, and then get the box together, see if maybe we can get this thing on wheels within the next couple of days. I know I work at the speed of molasses in January, so who knows. But anyway, welcome back, and we'll hope to see this thing done sometime. Okay, I'm Grizz here. Been working all night, and getting these things on was a bit of a trick because I needed to maintain my spacing, which of course was not right up against the box. It had enough for a 1/16 inch fiber washer and a little play, but now I have it just kind of balanced on there on the table saw, so that's why it's wiggling. But it goes up like that, and on the other side of this right here will be the draw catches to hold it in the upright position. I'm also going to make up a little block just for temporary, but that's not quite enough, and we'll hang on to it so she doesn't go running away on us. But there she is. The actual rifle rest is just kind of clamped against that that upright for the moment, because I need to get the shotgun back out here and see how it sets in relation to the bead on the end. So I position that right. Also, it has to be positioned so that it clears down here. But that's a job for another day. I think I've had all I can take for today. So, back again tomorrow night, and we will maybe get our washers in and our wheels on and get that screwed in place, and the feet on the box so we can move it down onto the floor, or at least have it up the way it's going to be on the saw. Finish out our box and think about the push bar, I guess we really need to do. But I want to see how it balances so I know the angle and the height and the distance, so that it may sit high, but it's where the cart balances best at a comfortable height. Pushing it determines the angle of that push bar, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, back later with more. Grizz here. Kind of been busy and forgot about taking video. I adjusted the height of that top cross member so that it would contact the tray better when it was folded up, and adjusted my barrel rest as low as it would go and still clear when folding up, and I'm happy with that. I got that all screwed together. The box, the panels aren't tacked in, they're just kind of placed in because I'm out of steam for tonight, but couldn't pass up the chance for a photo op, because now you can see what this beast is going to look like. So, still have the push bar back here. It will come up and back a few inches, but well, I'm not going to try tipping it because that lid isn't on there. It did slide off. But trust me, it rolls really nicely. I may, before I go in, just set that lid down in there so it doesn't rest and see how it does weight-wise. But it is coming along and looking like a cart lifting it off of the table saw. It is a heavy burger. Definitely need a good man, or since this is going to be a couples cart, probably both of them lifting it out of the car might be a good idea. Sorry. Anyway, back when I have more to show. Just a quick segment here. So I have just a couple of pieces of scrap clamped up in there to help determine the angle for the push bar. As you can see, I've got it loaded up. This is my drill in the box for counterweight, simulate the weight of whatever they may take to the match. And I think I just kind of put these here, and I think I actually like that. It starts out a bit high, but then it comes down to a comfortable place to push, and it balances pretty well. So we'll see. I have the folks who are going to own this cart on their way to see how that works for them. And I'll tack on a little clip without all the clamps in here just to kind of show you how it looks, maybe. Or maybe I'll wait until everything's all together. Back soon. Promised. Here's what she'll look like. Of course, we'll have the push bar on it, but it is getting closer. Definitely have decided to probably put some of that same carpet across the back of the barrel rests. When I did my measuring, I measured off of my hammer double, and my hammerless, actually the bead is much closer there depending on how you have it sitting in there. So pushing that out a little bit, I can't move that down or it won't fold upright. So but that'll be okay. A nice little spot in that front for a cooler or a can to put your brass in or whatever. And found a 1/2 inch dowel today to hold your guns from bouncing out, although it's angled well, so I don't think that's going to be a problem unless you're really bouncing over uneven terrain. So let me put the irons away, get back to work, and we'll see how much we can get done. I'll check back in a bit. To work on the uprights, and the sticks that I had clamped in there, I marked. What did I do with those? Oh well. Anyway, if I had them, I'd show you that I clamped them in there for the right angles and then marked the where they crossed the uprights there, so I got my angle. And I just kind of roughed it out here and measured how long it needed to be, and then decided that it'd be 4.5 inches wide, and it's actually going to taper up to where the handle is. And what did I have 3/4 of an inch thick that was I could get 4.5 inches wide and 19 inches of length times 2. And what I came up with is this beautiful walnut here, which with the barrel rests being walnut, this being walnut as well, should be really pretty. So then I started just transferring my layout lines to a piece of plywood, and I don't know if you can see that there, but and that's not where it's going to be. It's going to be back more from the edges, the 1.25 inch dowel, and kind of based off of those measurements I figured out where that taper should go, took the taper all the way back to there, just drew my line. I cut these 2 angles with the miter gauge here, but this long one I am going to do with a taper jig, which is right here. Thought I'd show you how I set that up. And these angles are, you know, they are what they are. They're not exacts, and they don't have to be, which is what's kind of nice. So I just put my taper jig up against the fence, line up my starting point more or less, and I loosen that up, and actually I'm going to have to back my fence up here, but just keeping the jig up against the fence. What I'm sighting on here is my the groove for my miter slot. So I line up, making sure everything's good, and well, see, it's kind of moves all over the place when you aren't looking, but that's pretty close. Let's lock that down so she doesn't move too much, and that will be, I think, close enough. Want to see me actually cut wood? Exciting, I know it is. This segment has probably already gone long, so what's a little longer? I'm going to cut that last segment because I got careless and did not push that all the way through and actually let go of it while I was reaching to turn the saw off, and it got twisted a little bit and pulled it back through. Didn't ruin our little test piece, which is why we do test pieces. It helps us figure out what the heck we're doing. Let's cut this again. Sure it's past the blade. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm going to have to adjust that to get it over to my line, but I'm going to do that without the camera on. Okay, furnace kicked in. I guess it's time for a segment. This is probably where I ought to give the disclaimer that use of power tools is inherently dangerous and should not be done so by untrained, unskilled people, or sometimes by even skilled people who are too tired. I do not have a guard on my table saw. You should have a guard on your table saw. Use at your own risk. Do not do what I do. Do as I say, I guess. There's reasons I don't have it on there, which, quite frankly, are none of your business. But you can figure them out if you do much woodworking. Anyway, and I do have a guard for it, and I do put it on there at times. So I got my plywood mock-up done. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to have it flush with the back of the upright or with the front of this little thing. And now here's where my overthinking comes in. My thinking is, okay, with this, it's going to add about 8 inches of length to the whole thing when it's folded up. Wouldn't it be nifty if we put a pivot point in, rounded things off, and it could just rotate that way? Well, that adds more than the depth we're going to have down there. Okay? Well, what if we put a pivot point in, round off this, so that it can pivot this way? When transported, the box will be in here, so we're already going to have the height. But, you know, that's all very doable. Drill a hole, put a bolt, a T-nut on the other side to tighten it down, and it would just pivot on there. But when it's in its upright position, it's going to have force being pulled down on here. Just that bolt tightened up isn't enough. We would have to put in a second bolt that you would in effect take out, and you could put a nice little knob on there or whatever, and take that out, and then you could rotate it down for transport. I'm kind of shying away from that at this point. I mean, it can be retrofit later if I decide to, just for the fact that I would really rather not have this cart have loose parts that you have to undo and then rotate, and then you have this knob with the bolt on it that you have to keep track of. I suppose you could, if I cut things right, you could put it back in there, but still, it's going to be bounced around the back of a car. It could get lost. It could, and I'm trying to avoid that. So I think I am just going to go ahead and get my parts cut, and then figure out where I'm going to mount them, and continue. My little pencil drawing there, obviously the dowel for the handle will be centered, corners will be rounded off, and it will be beautiful. Onward and upward. Welcome back. From the last clip, we had these cut, but I had yet to round off the ends, so I got that done. I didn't feel like unearthing the bandsaw or the scroll saw, and I would have finished them up on the belt sander anyway, so I just did the whole thing on the belt sander. I did a pretty good job. Still need to get that burn mark out of there and even things up a bit. But after that, I was too tired to play with power tools and did not have my dowel. And before I drilled the holes that the dowel will fit into, I wanted to have it in hand to verify the dimensions. So last night I just hunted up some stuff for the drink holder that'll sit in the handlebars, and I found this 3/8 inch oak, which I think will be good, and kind of worked on my design and used my high-tech circle drawing thing to determine the size of the holes for drinks. That'll work just fine. Water bottle's a little smaller, so that'll be fine. To determine my width, what I wanted to do is across there have a drink on each end and room for a couple of boxes of shotgun shells or whatever in the middle. So I used a box of shotgun shells set like that for my width and kind of figured it out, so I got that all roughed out. So I really want to get to work on that, but I need to finish up on the rest of the uprights first, get our dowel in place, which of course is going to be across up here. And I also got knobs and T-nuts to fasten the uprights, or the handlebars to the uprights about right there, to lessen the footprint when transporting. And I'm thinking I may put a just a piece across here so when you take it off, it's not going to want to close in on that end, just to keep it from racking on the dowel here. So anyway, I'm going to get to work on that and see how far I can get, because I really want to get that done so I can work on the drink holder that'll kind of ride in here and pivot when the cart is tipped. Back soon. One quick note before I get to work here. You will notice I already have, I don't know if you can see those fine little lines, I marked the center point for my dowel holes before I rounded off that edge, so that I would have true surfaces to measure from. Otherwise, the circling it off the way I did might not be exact, and the two pieces may not match quite, but I wanted that to be straight so that it all works out well. Anyway, and this walnut I laid out so that have this kind of ice cream sundae looking wood on the inside and the dark on the outside. I'm not sure why I did it the way I did it, but at least the insides match and the outsides match, I guess is my point. Back to it. Okay, got the sides of the push bar done. I took my Forstner bit and cut a hole down in there, and from my center point of that I just punched it all the way through the wood with an 1/8 inch bit to locate the hole for my screw. So I went ahead and piloted that and countersunk it. I located and piloted and countersunk my holes for that cross member that's going to go across in there, and the way I positioned those was a setup block so that when I put this together I can get it in the right place. Otherwise it might be a little difficult. Might be kind of hairy anyway. So now what I'm going to do is just give these a quick sanding, because once it's put together it's going to be hard to get a sander on it, and we'll go from there. After I get this together, then I'll work on getting holes. I'll figure out where I want my holes, and I'll probably just do that with it clamped in place, and get my T-nuts and that sort of thing put in and put together, and away we go. And just as I turn on the camera, the furnace comes on. Okay, now what I'm doing is setting it up for the T-nuts that are going to use to attach the handlebar. And this would have been done much easier on the drill press to help me get a consistent straight up and down stroke. But for some reason I thought I couldn't figure out where I wanted the holes until it was together. So anyway, what I did is I started off with a 1 inch and countersunk that just enough so that the T-nut will fit flush. And the only T-nuts they had for the size knobs I wanted are the ones you actually have to put screws in, but that may actually wind up being better anyway. So after that I took a 1/2 inch and I took it down just the thickness of the bit, not the full depth of the T-nut, because I was afraid the full depth of the T-nut would be all the way through the board. And so then what I did is I took the 3/8, which is the bolt size, lined it up on that center hole of the 1/2 inch and the 1 inch, put that all the way through. And then I went over and I clamped it in my uprights and I ran that 3/8 all the way through. Now I'm back here taking the 1/2 inch, getting it down far enough to where the barrel of that T-nut will bottom out. I'll be back in a minute when I have it bolted up. Of course, the fear when you do things the way I did is that when you drill that hole on through the upright, you'll get it at an angle, which I did, which meant I had to monkey with the holes, and they're still not the way I want them, but they are in there good enough that come along with me for the first tip up of the cart under its own handlebars. And that is pretty stinking sweet. That is, I mean, it rolls nice. So I need to fine-tune those holes at some point. I don't know if I'll do it now. I may go on to other things and come back to that when I can wrap my head around a little better what needs to be done. Then obviously put the screws in to hold the T-nuts in, and that's where I'm going to want those holes to be perfect, so that in the event you do take the handlebars off, it doesn't cause you frustration to put them back on. But it is pretty sweet. I'm getting a little bit of wiggle in there, and that is because those T-nuts are not exactly perfect or tight, because of course there's nothing holding them in place. Now that we've had a chance to wiggle that around a little bit, we'll tighten those up a bit. And now, with that tight, oh yeah. I can't tell you how tickled I am at this. Rolling on its own power. Has a push bar. And we can get on to other things. I am kind of wondering, since there is a little bit of slop in there, even with those real tight, I think that'll probably be okay, because we have a nice bearing surface here and on the sides against there. It's when you tip it back that is going to be the most strain, and we definitely have enough to make it work right. But that is sweet. Okay, you probably don't want to sit there and watch me rock this back and forth, but it is exciting to me. I may wrap section whatever this is tonight. It's already 5:30. I may or may not do more tonight. We'll just have to see. But if I do, join me for part whatever of the epic gun cart build. And I can't promise we'll get it done next time, but I can say we are getting closer, and it will get done eventually. So we'll just leave you with, let's tip this back and mosey on our way. Do off to the next stage. Ha 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 ha. Oh, that's sweet. Don't even have to put a hand on the wheel. You just kind of tip it back and away you go. I like it. Hope to see you down the trail. Until then, watch your top knot. Oh, sorry. Watch your top knot.